Stop comedy. I do yoga instructors. Look, here's my. Hello, welcome to the Comedy Theory Podcast. My name is Tyler Senjanin.
And I'm Connor Ford.
We're both sipping some coffee after a long night of sleeping, and we're here to discuss our finer topics of comedy, and also what makes it fun, what makes it interesting, and what is the reason we are so obsessed with it. It's deeper than people look, or at least that's what we've come to find, because whenever we're trying to explain a joke to someone, we seem insane, so we have to...
Yeah, the point of the podcast is kind of just take some time, break down comedy. It's kind of a comedian's comedy podcast, or it's a nobody's nothing podcast.
Yeah, right, or it's for nobody, and this is a failure. But I mean, hey.
Let's see.
We'll see. But no, yeah, like I remember one of my favorite and frustrating things of childhood was when I came across a joke that was so funny you couldn't explain it to another person. Like, you know what I mean? Like that you had to, it has powerful, you had to be there energy. Yeah.
That's a defining moment in any young man's life, is when they're like explaining the best joke that they think of in their head. Like they saw it was the funniest thing they've ever seen, and then they bring it to another person. The other person just gives you fucking crickets.
They just stare at you like,
is
that it?
That's the grade school bomb. That's what it is.
No, because I remember the first time it happened to me was when I was watching Whose Line Is It Anyway? And it was like one of those improv scene jokes that was so funny. I watched it from my kitchen, and I walked 10 paces to my living room, tried to explain it to my parents, and they didn't get it. And I remember for the rest of my life, I said, I'm going to fix that. Because I need to find a way to, like, tell people stuff that I think is hilarious. And I think that just probably put me on the road to being a comic. At one point, I just started telling my own jokes.
Yeah. It's such a departure telling other people's jokes to telling your own. Like, we were talking about it last night, how... frustrating it is when somebody just repeats the punchline of jokes.
Mm-hmm. The callback whore is basically what I want to call it, because callbacks are great.
You defend callbacks.
No, I defend callbacks in the stand-up setting where it's meant to either button a bit or close on it, because closers are a fickle bitch that have to have a punch, and a callback are great. Callbacks in improv is lazy sometimes. It's not lazy. It's called format, you lethargic bitch.
Just don't write anything. Go up there and be perfect.
Otherwise,
you're not even a comedian.
Well, Mark Maron has the perfect bit for it when he goes like, I don't prepare, because if I don't prepare and I succeed, I'm a genius. And if I don't prepare and I fail, well, I didn't prepare. And I think that's probably the best philosophy you can have.
Mark Maron totally prepares. He just says that.
Mm-mm. Well, I mean, here's my thing. True or not, he looks like a guy who can pull it off. Yeah, but also, his stand-up, his format totally is so stream of consciousness. It's almost like a fucking Herald, but stand-up sometimes, if you catch him. Like, he's literally goes up there for 45-minute kills. I mean, so many comedians do that, where they get shit-faced at the cellar, and, like, they have their slot come up on, like, sneak up on them, and they're like, oh, okay. And they go up there, and they just perform because they, like, know they can. And sometimes your best material come up when you didn't plan on saying it, and you... had the ability. I think the difference between a comedian and a person who tells jokes at a party is if you remember what made people laugh, and you study it. Otherwise, you're just a person who is situationally funny.
What about Louis C.K., God rest his soul? He had the theory that it's like you're a psychopath if you write something down, because like everybody has a funny story that they tell all their friends when they're at a party. So all stand-up comedy is doing it again. So when you tell that crazy funny story at the party that you really like, it'd be psychotic for you to write it down, remember the beats, edit it, and then go to the next party and tell the story again. So
my thing
his theory is that
I don't know, like with that kind of stuff, I always look at it as a way as a comedian who's just very defensive about the fact that they don't write it down. Like, how could you do that? It ruins the art. How is it even a thing? Dude, I just have a crap memory. Sorry. Like, I'm sorry. Attention to every comedian that whips their dick out every time they go like, you write stuff down. Yeah, sorry. I have a crappy memory, and I say a lot of things.
I'm just a man.
I'm just a person who has a higher volume of speech than you do, I guess.
Yeah.
And I have to sift through it.
Yeah, like George Carlin wrote his shit down.
Yeah.
If Carlin wrote it down like fucking verbatim, I think anybody is allowed
because
to
he did more
down.
drugs than anybody, and he was like, what did I say that one night? That was really funny. Oh, let me look at this napkin I wrote in ketchup. What does that say? Like, that was, a huge thing. Because I feel like it also just comes down to the person. You know what I mean? Like, I think a person who's a one-liner probably doesn't have to write anything down because one-liners have 12 syllables, and you can remember that.
But there are so many in an act.
No, yeah. But I mean, like, well, even you spread them out. If it, like, even the one-act people, like, they probably have it written down because when they were writing their sets, they were, like, coming up with one by one.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like,
you don't gonna tack it on to the end at that point.
Yeah, Jeselnik doesn't like go to stage right one-liners. No, he's sitting on a tarmac, not a tarmac, but like a waiting room. What do they call it for airplane areas?
Jeselnik has a private jet now, apparently. He doesn't deserve it. His last special.
Call out. All right.
I will. Well,
we're gonna get famous, and he's gonna see this and blackball us because he didn't like his comedy.
No,
look at you.
I did like his first special. I did enjoy it. I do think he's funny, and you do make a good point by saying that see him live, and it's a better experience.
That's why I'm biased. Yeah.
I'll absolutely give it to him. I haven't seen him live, but the special he just did. I think the audience was more on board, was very heavily fans, and they were just more on boards than you could possibly get a Netflix audience to be. So for the first 5 jokes, for those of you who haven't seen it, Anthony Jeselnik is a one-liner comic, and the way he told his first 5 jokes in the Netflix special was he would deliver the setup, he'd get a small laugh for no reason, I felt.
I didn't think it was earned.
Yeah. And then he would deliver the punchline, and it would be a 30-second canned sitcom laugh track. Not like literally, but that's what it sounded like. Because there were points where I checked my watch during him,
You're like my God.
Them laughing. I was like, no, he's just not that. Nobody's that funny that isn't Kyle Kinane. Louis C.K., God rest his soul. Not you. Don't clear your throat, you son of a...
Oh, no, I was sincerely clearing my throat. But no.
Me?
Moi. But I feel like... with that, I feel one of the things I always deeply enjoyed about Jeselnik is the persona. And you really get the persona live, and sometimes it's lost. But I will admit, in the newest special, there's one thing I did notice is all the other specials treated him as... It treated him as like specials, and he just happened to be a one-liner comic, while this new special kind of catered and was shot and was formulated to like, hey, this is the dark humor one-liner guy. And while the other ones were like, hey, it's a comedian. Oh, he's a dark one-liner guy. Cool, I like that. And then this one was kind of like, fire at an orphanage. And you're like, all right, well, I'm already
I had problem with the title too.
Yeah, it's heavy-handed. Not wrong, just heavy-handed in my opinion.
What was his thoughts and prayers was his first one?
Because that one made sense because that was
good.
That was his non-one-liner.
I'm saying that was a good title.
I really loved that.
That was a one-liner of it. Well, it wasn't.
Well, thoughts and prayers was like he actually kind of it was like a series of one-liners on one topic. I think is probably the best.
I think that's just stand-up comedy.
He's like, you want to know why?
No, but
don't do it. Like when a tragedy happens, people literally text him saying, "Don't do it."
Ruin his joke.
No, that's a thing that actually happens. He's a dark humor comic.
Also, it's been out there for how many years, and this is a comedy theory podcast. So go fuck yourself.
I'll always say like, "Oh God, you haven't watched this thing that's been out for 6 years that you just found out about now. What's wrong with you?"
Well, still, I mean, giving not even really a punchline to one joke, I think is ethical. What are the ethics of our podcast? What do we stand for? What's our business?
Well, I feel that we probably should just do like a boilerplate in the beginning of this where we go like, hey, listen, we're just a bunch of larva comedians talking about big stuff.
We have almost no experience. We just like to talk about comedy and the theory we see behind it. So between the two of us,
we have to talk about the
4 or
comics.
5 years of comedy, stand-up comedy experience, tops, and then improv on top of that and stuff like that. So we have like no business to it.
Well, it's kind of like this. Like us talking about comics in the Comedy Theory podcast are basically kind of just like any other like person talking about any other topic. They have to talk about the either modern examples or the big fundamental aspects of it. Kind of like scientists are going to be like, well, Pluto, it's not a planet anymore. Now he is again. Let's go into that. Our version of that would be like, did you see that Aziz Ansari?
Well, no, it's did you hear that Pluto is not a planet? Like, we didn't discover it. We're the people just talking about it.
I just love the idea of Pluto being discovered and them going like, it's too much ice. It's not a planet. And then Pluto went, dude,
What a little bitch.
Right, and he complained so much and got enough people to complain that it had to be it's a dwarf planet now, which is even worse. It's a concession.
Yeah, how did a group of adults
Yeah.
get nostalgic about a
Viva
piece
la
of
puta.
rock
Yeah.
I doubt 99% of them have ever seen. And nostalgic enough that they're like, bring it back. Fuck science.
I didn't learn that acronym in 5th grade with a P at the end of it for fucking nothing, all right?
Well, they took it out. Because it's crazy that I have to say that, but one of the few times that science has triumphed over not facts is when they didn't bring Pluto back into the song for grade schoolers.
That was messed up.
No, it was a good thing because science was like, it's not a planet, and you're not going to teach it it's a fucking planet just because you like that it's a planet. And finally, people were like, okay, you win this one.
Do you think there's like a giant man in a trench coat just started kicking down grade school doors and like these kids are about to sing? It's like, and the final one is. How about we stop right there? All right, I'm sorry. Just put the gun down, sir. But like, okay, so back to in comedy theory when it comes to just like, I feel
Back to the comedy theory.
back to the comedy theory podcast.
This was a message from our sponsor, scientists.
Science. Make up your mind. I still hold that like one of my favorite things about comedy is like I feel like your first comic you ever like. For a comedian, there's two things. There's your first comic, and then there's the first comic you like dissect and like not really, but like like, metaphorically. I didn't vivisect
Louis
the performer.
C.K. God rest his soul.
That's why we keep playing with his soul.
That's why
He's on the table right next to us. Anyway, no.
I don't think I had a first comedian that I specifically dissected. I think I just started dissecting comedy as a whole.
Just like the big nut right away. Crack it.
Well, I think that's a safer place to start.
Yeah.
Because you're not destroying your favorite comic right off the bat. Because sometimes if you dissect it, you're like, I've seen it 80 times. Kill me.
Well, that's the thing. Like for me, I was so young when I first like became like a dumb little fanboy over stand-up. Was like probably when I was like between 10 and 12, just because Christopher Titus's Norman Rockwell is bleeding, and I had seen some bits of it like live in the middle of the day on Comedy Central.
Adjust my microphone.
Yeah, just that microphone, Bo. And I remember watching him like on the Comedy Central Secret Stash at like 1 a.m. When they would play something with like no censors and all that. And I remember watching it and like literally just like loving every second of it and barely understanding the jokes, and then enjoying him, and then like watching a shit ton of other comedians, listening to a bunch of other comedians, and then going back to him and with like my ability to like look a little bit closer at comedy, and I saw that he's just this perfect combination of like he's so animated he has to have a body mic. He's one of the few comedians I know that does not have a mic in his hand.
Well, that and oh god, the greatest hits of comedy was the album he just released. This is the name of his special, I believe, which is fucking hilarious. He's British. It was on Netflix.
Oh, Jimmy Carr?
Yeah, Jimmy Carr.
Jimmy Carr. Oh. I love that guy. The reason I will always enjoy Jimmy Carr is like I don't know if it's just something he's choosing to do or if it's just something that's very honest, or maybe it's both, but like he's just the dude who's just Britain's wit unwavering. Like Britain's evolving but he's the person who's like, nope, I'm the same. Fuck your mother.
One more funny British person.
Name one funnier British person?
No, one more funny British person.
Jim Jeffries is Australian.
Yeah.
I was just like going through the Rolodex of audio. Australian. Oh,
Man, my accent sucks.
I was gonna say the key to saying Australian is just like that second A, just make it hard as hell. Australian. See, just sounds a wee bit better, yeah, right. I'm trying to think of other British. I know other British comedians. Why can't I think of them right now?
I got nothing. I legitimate. They exist.
They exist. They're there.
Young Jamie, pull that up. Joe Rogan podcast.
References. We don't do DMT. Let's just not address that. But like, yeah, like
for those of you out there, I do not do DMT.
Just for the clarification.
This is a comedy theory podcast,
so we had to capitalize on it.
Here we are.
But like, I love how Joe Rogan is one of the most like solid comedians, but like he's only associated with like those DMT and podcasts and like to the
just
layman.
For people who don't listen to him.
Yeah, but it bums me out because I feel like there's too many barriers to discover how sincerely funny his stand up is.
Dude, Strange Times.
Holy God, shit, solid. Triggered was a really
Ricky
good
Gervais.
reminder. What?
Ricky Gervais. We fucked
comedy actor, yeah. Comedian. Ask him.
He doesn't do Ricky Gervais. Oh yeah.
That's what I mean. Like he's one of those like
people like him.
No,
I don't know who.
No, that's fine. You can like him. I'm just saying I don't think stand up when I think Ricky Gervais. I think of him being a commentary satirist on some type of TV show or movie. That's what I picture in my head at least.
Yeah.
He's like Stephen
Dude.
Fry. Like, I wouldn't call him a comic. He's funny, British, but you know.
If you told me that Patton Oswalt was British,
I'd buy it.
I totally.
Without hearing him. Just
Yeah,
seeing a picture of him.
Like,
This guy's
no,
British.
he was born in Britain and he came over here real young.
Oh, that would make
Oh,
sense.
Yeah.
He's still got like, he's got the
Gotcha, fam.
he's got the British software, but the American hardware, or the other way around.
The other way around. Yep.
I saw you like
son of a
squint,
bitch,
like
I swear to God.
I swear, get your
s-
goddamn metaphors right, or I will restart this podcast.
That'd be brutal. Just to start it from.
And it's like a very distinct click, so you'd be like, I'd fart too loudly, and you go. But like, I always like. It's so funny that. Sorry. Oh man. Oh, no.
For those of you listening, because none of you are watching this, Tyler has 9/11'd his glasses right off his face.
9/11. No, yeah, I adjusted myself, and then the leg of my glasses got like cinched off by the pop filter. It was fun and only done by me. Only I could have that special Hugh Grant stupidness.
We'll share this forever.
But oh yeah, but like, don't you just love how Mulaney got famous really quickly because of just like the accessibility of his comedy, both literally easy on Netflix and two, like it's like he's the king of relatable humor right now.
Dude, he is the
king.
comics comic and the non-comics.
It's
comic
crazy.
as
He
well.
literally manages to could walk that path like both where he even went out. He's so confident that people know he's a nice guy that when he was approached with the Crashing script where he plays an asshole himself as an asshole, most people in Hollywood would go,
Oh,
no, I don't want people to think that's the real me. The average person's stupid. They're going to think this is real. But like Mulaney went, nah, make me an asshole. Because he trusts no one's going to buy it.
I feel that shit. Well, I mean, like, also, I totally, full-heartedly believe that he is a nice person.
Oh, yeah.
But if he wasn't, he has fuck you money.
He does. He does.
He's like, yeah, I'm an asshole. Book me anyways. Okay.
No, yeah, he has like, as Joe Rogan said, like, what did he call it? That he's the fear factor money.
Yeah, the fuck you money.
The fuck
That's
you
what it
money.
is,
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I call that fuck you money, man.
This
But-
is just the retarded cousin of Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah. We'll just call it
Not
that.
to brag.
But here's my thing though, like I honestly will only really watch episodes if it's like a comedian nowadays. Like if it's someone I don't recognize, I'm kind of like, yeah, I'll hit the next one.
I have gone too deep. I have become a cult member because I now will listen to just about anything. Wouldn't recommend it.
No, I mean, no, dude. There's some people that are like. Here's the thing: when you have a comic on, they're gonna talk like a comic to another comic. It's gonna be riffy. It's gonna be funny. It's gonna be analytical in a way that interests me. You know what? When he has on someone whose name, like, I look at and I feel nothing, I'm not gonna watch that because chances are, yeah, they might be well spoken. Are they interesting? No. That's my thing. Like, there's so many times when that happens.
I
on
have
that show.
had few times where they have not been interesting. Like Mike Tyson, you had to watch it.
Oh God, yeah. Mike Tyson.
Kevin Hart, even if he had came on and he wasn't a comedian, a comedian. It sounds like a type of monkey. If he wasn't a comedian, like just the respect for how much he's done, I would have still watched it. You know?
I did watch that one. I remember he was talking about. God, I'm sorry. I my favorite thing in the universe ever is when a person gets so rich they become spiritual, because money means nothing.
Kevin Hart?
Yeah. Yes. Did you see that podcast?
Well,
Well, I mean,
what?
spiritual
Yeah, I
in the
saw
sense
the
where it's like deep philosophy
he
about
said
everything.
all those gay things and a couple other things, so he opened up the podcast with like, "I'm a changed man."
Oh,
And
yeah.
I understand why he did that.
But like, you know, when when
would-
a person gets so obscenely rich, like they kind of have to transcend what makes them happy because money was able to give them everything that they thought made them happy, and now they're kind of like, it's all about that inner
well, they
peace.
start meditating, doing yoga, and fucking their yoga instructor. That's what happens.
Yeah, every time, every goddamn
single
time.
Lost so many good men.
To yoga instructors.
Stopped doing comedy. Now I just do yoga and her.
I don't stop comedy. I do yoga. Instructors, look. Here's my but yeah, like Kevin Hart. The reason I'll always love him is his energy. That's like his
Dude, he's funny.
He's but his unwavering energy is my
I don't
favorite
know if
trait.
people
about
are
him.
talking about him, but I just got into him. He's sarcasm. He's pretty funny.
No, yeah, he's funny in that way that that I like because he's unwavering and he demands it from his audience, and it works because I feel like his comedy's energizing. So like when he's telling stories and he's getting people wound up, he loses people. He also, you can tell, he's been working in places where riding the audience's reaction is the best way to go, and he does it like lightning. Like, he straight up will tell a joke that's doing well, and you can see in his eyes, okay, this is doing great. I'm gonna literally wring this sponge until it's nothing. And he's one of those few people that can wring it till it's completely dry, and then with his next joke, literally be like, oh, we're back to step one. Hell yeah. It's great.
Yeah, he's got a really good. Well, have you heard his? You did hear because you watched the Joe Rogan podcast, but the way he goes about like getting to arenas, because Aziz Ansari's special, I personally thought
weak, right, in the Madison Square.
Yeah, in Madison Square, not his first one. His first one was fucking phenomenal.
Yes.
But the one in Madison Square Garden, I don't think he was ready for arenas. I don't think he was doing arenas because when it came out, I got about 15 minutes way through it before I was like, he doesn't look comfortable up there. He doesn't belong.
Because there's a 360 one for him, right? Or
no. It was a back wall. And
I
all
always
that.
forget that. I always think
but
Madison has the middle.
It didn't feel right for him. But when I watched Kevin Hart in Madison Square Garden,
doing
it in the round, nonetheless, it took me about 4 minutes to forget I was in an arena. He came out, he pumped the audience up, and then he went into his stuff, and it was real high energy right off the bat.
He was entertaining to the rafters, you know.
Yeah,
what I mean? You could tell.
Yeah, exactly. And there were a couple of points in it where I was like, "Holy shit, there's 12,000 people here. He's in an arena in Madison Square Garden."
Camera widens. Oh,
yeah. I'm like, "Oh, damn." That's also when there's a tight of Kevin Hart, he delivers. In that special, there was a couple of tight shots of Kevin Hart, like right on his face. He delivers his last big joke, and then the next cut is to everything, to the whole 12,000 people. I'm like, that's the biggest dick energy I have ever seen in my life.
You did that at the benefit.
Be like, killer joke. Look at all these people losing their minds.
I remember I loved you when you did that Beverly Arts Center bit where you were just like literally like you did the like through your legs like this gentleman in front of me, but you did it in front of a bigger audience, so it just felt like. I don't know, man. There's something about comedy that I love where you're your own thing. I like that. Like, I always talk to some people about this. Like, when you're in a band, it's like you got to rely on like a multi-person like synthesis of like talent. When a comedian, there's just I find, and this could just be my comitophobic issues, who knows? But I mean, like, I really like the fact that everything about stand-up is super self-contained to the person. Always one of my favorite things, and like you can bring your own spice of life to it, and that's why Kevin Hart's able to. Literally do him because it's like, it's Kevin Hart. He doesn't have to worry about his other person being late. He doesn't have to worry about making sure the energy of the person he's working with is the same as him. No, all he knows is if he carries this freaking show, it's going to get carried, you know? And I like that about stand-up because, you know, you can take your time and, like, formulate it so it's you. It's to you. It's tailored to you. It's your timestamp. Like, I love it when people saw Do You Take and they go, like, I hear you in it. And I'm like, hell yes. I want my shit to sound distinct.
It's like when you hear another comic doing Mulaney and stuff like that. It's like, good, that one sounds like me. Like you play a Joe Rogan bit not in his voice. I'm like, it's Joe Rogan for sure. Like, it's just finding that voice is such a big part of being a comic. But when you're a young comic, all you can do is take the voice of comedians you like and kind of make it an amalgamation.
Study what they accomplish.
Yeah, exactly. So you learn from you.
I moved his mic with my toe. I'm sorry.
Well, that's it. This is over.
Turn it off. Click.
But yeah, the young comedian's voice is just an amalgamation of all their favorite comics. But to find your own voice, obviously, you're gonna be a voice of all your favorite comics coming together. But it's just the smoothing it out. It's like if you make a cake and then you just beat it with your fists for an extended period of time.
This will be my cake soon.
Or just cut it into a lot of pieces so you can see all the pieces, and each piece is a comedian that you've studied from, and then you just ice the shit out of that motherfucker, and then that's your voice. It kind of like just smooths it out, covers it up, and that's the seamless transitions you see. And I think that's how you found your voice, or I could be wrong.
Well, for me, it's like I always feel you should take a leaf out of all your favorites book. You know, you should be able to
at least try it on for size.
Oh yeah,
but you can't get stuck in that either. That's the thing. It's such a fine line to walk.
I think you should have a very critical eye on yourself, and that's how you find your own voice. I think you should be able to go like man, you know what? I didn't like that. Let me do it like slightly like this, and then because you made that choice, it's more like you and less like the comic that inspired the moment. Like,
or just call yourself out and be like, oh, that was Mulaney.
Literally.
I just did Mulaney.
We do the everything about me all the time, like in bits. Like, we'll say that.
Oh god, I'm so guilty of that.
But it's such a good staple,
again,
though.
New comics don't write our dicks about this. We are trying our hardest to stop. But every once in a while, we'll be delivering jokes, and the joke will be like about how we look. Like, I look like a homeless man if you couldn't tell by everything about me.
Yeah.
Is everything about me is a Mulaney line that we just can't
stop saying. Well, I mean, you know, here's my thing. I feel we're part, and this just sounds like bullshit justification, but I don't care.
Well, it's not. I don't believe it's joke theft if it's two words.
No, yeah, but like that's exactly what I'm saying.
Actively admitting, like, yeah, we need.
Like, you know the phrase "hat in a hat." 200 years ago, some person was like, did something that was redundant and went, you know what that is? That's a hat in a hat. Hey, that's pretty funny, Dave. And then enough people said it, and now it's a phrase. I think everything about me is on the way.
Kinda, yeah.
It's on the way to becoming an adage because I hear it all the time by people who aren't even performing.
To grow and become a better comedian, you just gotta find your own. I mean, like, the everything about me is a phenomenal line, and it's so short and succinct, but. Again, you have every time as a comedian, you'll recognize in your set when you are like, oh, that's a line this person says. Oh, that's a line this person says. I have to cut that. I'm my own man.
No, yeah, you got to be able to, like, honestly go, like, yeah, it's nice to be able to know really funny stuff and to be able to, like, be a fan of everything. But that's what's also really weird, because I go to open mics all the time with you, and we always end up talking to someone or somebody else who also happens to be a comic. And the amount of times I've talked to someone and they like literally go like, oh yeah, you know, I just kind of go up there and I just talk. I don't write anything down. And like, I mean, never. Like I've gone like never. Like pushed it a little. Like maybe they're going like, yeah, sometimes I'll jot something down and remember to tell it like a line or something, like a bullet point. And he goes like, nope, I actually go out of my way to not writing something down. And I'm like, see, that just sounds less productive than what it, like, have you tried writing it down? And they'd be like, no, I don't want to do that.
It sounds exhausting.
It sounds horrifying because honestly, like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, if one, I can already tell by the people I'm talking to, this is not your number one priority right now, the stand-up. You probably have two other things you're thinking about way more than your stand-up. So writing it down, helpful. Writing down your comedy is so important, and any comedian that says they never do, who has any modicum of success, is maintaining a persona, and that's fucking it.
What? Ari Shaffir doesn't write it down, but the thing is...
Sure he doesn't. Sure he doesn't.
Why would he lie?
Well, I just said maintaining a persona. I'm not saying he writes freaking books about it. I'm saying that like he thinks of something, he writes it on a cocktail napkin, leaves it in his hotel room.
Well, he goes on like these trips for months on end, and then I assume he'll just write shit down then. And Louis C.K. never wrote it down. God rest his soul. Louis C.K. never wrote it down, but what he would do when he was in his off season, he would email himself any preferences that he just couldn't forget. Like, they were so good.
Like, that's way too good of a tag to let recede into my subconsciousness.
To just let it go. So, I mean, there's that, but...
I don't know, I just feel like stage writing all the time, like, really... It literally sounds like you don't care about the practice.
Well, it
honestly does.
It's not stage writing all the time that's bad. It's not coming up there with anything. But ever. I don't think any comedian does that. I think a lot of comedians will be like, this happened to me today, or... on their way to the set, they'll think over. They're like, this was funny, this was funny, this was funny.
Because I have a vault to pull from. That's what I do. Like, I don't prepare. I don't, like, for places like Ash, which is our usual Wednesday open mic, I'll probably...
Come to the Ashbury in Willow Springs in Illinois every Wednesday night at 10 p.m.
Sign
to
up
see
at
Tyler
8:30.
and I do stand-up.
You can see if we're worth a damn.
Well, let's burn this to the ground.
But I will always be an advocate of the idea that if you should have the ability to write stuff down to be able to remember it, because honest to God, at the end of the day, people who go like, oh, I just don't write it down, I don't write it down. I'm like, that sounds like something you're not naturally doing. It doesn't. It sounds like it's something you're going out of your way to do to prove something to someone who's not part of this conversation. Like, you know what I mean? That's why I don't like it.
I want my dad to be proud of me, so I don't write things
down.
Yeah,
that's how it's always gonna come off of. Because here's the thing: it has the. Actually, you know what? I think I just figured out why it pisses me off. It comes off
because your dad isn't proud of you.
No, he's not. But that's not it. No, it's.
Please laugh.
Please laugh. Yeah, please. Is this thing on? No.
You can't tap it and make the noise with your voice.
Anyway, but I think the reason I don't like it is it'll always come off like they're talking about it like it's just a hobby to them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like that shit at all.
I feel that.
You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, it's just stand up. What, I gotta write it down? No, it has the level of seriousness. You're just not.
You gotta remember, we are essentially autistic children, and this is our train set. Like, we are.
Jesus. I'm mad at how offensive and accurate that fucking statement is. God. No one knows why this is as interesting as.
At me on the counter forward at Twitter at me.
On Twitter.
At the Connor Ford. Go ahead. But yeah, like this is seriously of every day, I think I spend at least 6 hours just thinking, talking, doing, writing comedy.
All day long is
Like,
always what I do. I have a notebook at work.
That's why we're fucking doing this shit. This is why.
Yeah, totally. We obsess over it and everything. But it's like, it's just, I feel like.
So it's offensive to us when you see somebody that's like, dude, it's just a hobby. I'm like, you listen,
it's
you
like
son of a bitch. This is going to make or break your life. If you don't make it, you'll kill yourself at 40.
These are my dreams. Like, no, if this is a grandiose comparison, I'll say right now, but like, just really just focus on the themes. Don't execute. It's kind of like being a chef. Being like a gourmet chef, and then like a fry cook who comes on and who just kind of comes in and goes like, he's like, okay, you're gonna do the prep for the food, dude, chill. I'm just here to make some Kraft mac and cheese.
Slits his throat.
Yeah,
it's like going on Gordon Ramsay's show and be like, I don't know, I like cooking a little.
And Gordon's like, what? You don't do this because you like it.
Why are you yelling at me so much? He's just cooking.
Yeah, right.
And then Gordon Ramsay beats him to death with brass knuckles right on the show. That would be. I need to become a famous chef just
so you can beat people legally.
No, just so I can go on Gordon Ramsay's show and be like, I don't know, I like cooking all right. I mean, it's okay.
Just to enrage him.
Gordon Ramsay starts yelling at me. I was just like, dude, calm. Yeah, I burnt. So who gives a shit?
Connor, I would pay so much money to have your lethargic ass and Gordon Ramsay just fucking.
You have 45 minutes to cook this dish. Dude, it'll get done when it gets done. Calm your shit.
You have 45 minutes to complete this dish. Oh, so I got 15 minutes to take that shit. I'll be right back.
I'm not going to wash my hands. No, like hang up the signs in my section of the kitchen, like what's on the menu, whatever I cook, like those signs.
All those horrible like kiss the cook
rules
apron.
Of my kitchen. If you don't like it, don't eat it. Go home. Shit like that.
I think the biggest.
If you're not drinking wine, it's no fun. Just be housing wine the whole time on the show.
The biggest dick energy you can have is being on Hell's Kitchen or Kitchen Nightmare and like showing up with the kiss the cook apron. Like everyone else is given a certain apron. Everyone's given a certain apron for the show because there's like teams and shit. But that one dude shows up bright red, kiss the cook.
Or the bikini one. That'd be amazing. I would love to get kicked off that show, is what I'm trying to say.
I like how you were like, I want to become a chef so I can do it. I think it's way more effective if you just do it without becoming a chef. That might even be more productive to what we're trying to accomplish.
How do you get an audition on that show? I think you have to be mentally unstable. No offense to anybody who has gone on that show and done well, but the amount of crying, screaming, and other things over cooking is horrifying.
He was able to grab 2 pieces of bread, put it around someone's head, ask him what they are, and they responded with an idiot sandwich. Okay, you need to understand, this man probably was a drill sergeant and then was struck by lightning and wanted to cook. I think that's what happened.
Is that shit on True TV? Because that sounds like it's on
all
True
I know
TV.
is that it's all my parents watch. But when it comes down to like how about this? Let's take one of our jokes that we do. Each take one, and we can break down like how.
Well, let's break down the writing process.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying.
That's
like,
what
yeah, because like for me, like my favorite joke I like to talk about that I do all the time is Trojan Horse because it was so good I had to retire it almost immediately. Because I really, and it's so funny because I said so good about my own joke. Let me put my dick back in my pants. It takes a minute.
He's jerking off right now in the studio.
All right. But no, it's a joke that I'm very proud of because it's always the one that sets above the rest because it's something that's in a way a risk because it's one of those ones where it's like people.
You're showing your nerd. You're showing your true.
I am showing my nerd with it. The Trojan Horse is a bit I do where I just break down the ancient history event of people hiding in a horse, using it to sneak into a castle, and it's fucking working.
If you just pause for a second, we can put in. We can put in a clip of it.
Oh, okay. Here's a clip.
Hey, and we're back.
No, yeah. So that joke is the reason I enjoy it so much is because it's a testament to how far I've come. Yeah. Because if I tried that joke in my early stages, it's risky because I don't want to say it's elevated, but it's definitely like I'm giving people a very mini history lesson when they thought they were gonna laugh. It's kind of a hard right, so you got to make sure you go about it in a way where like it's still funny the whole way, so you don't have people tune out mentally.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of build to it.
I think you do on that joke. You do the build specifically very well because it every time you get the opportunity for a joke, you take it and just do a very good job with it. It's not one of those jokes where you're like, I'm just padding with jokes until I get to my main line. It's like you're taking it and you're doing the conscious build, and exploring situations that like I don't explore in my comedy. What I've found when I'm doing stand-up comedy is I get stuck in these, like, I only explore like 4 or 5 different things. I'm like, who are they? What do they look like? How do they feel? And stuff like that.
And what about this? What about that?
Well, what I've been trying to do recently is do more like the Trojan Horse and be like, what if their manager was there? Or what if this was their last day at work? Like, explore just more
premise.
Broad thing. Yeah, more broad of a premise, which is what you do so well in that joke. Which the Trojan Horse jokes.
Trojan Horse. Well, it's a multi-layered thing. You got the history of it. You have the ridiculous. Like, that's why I like it, because it's a rich topic in the sense that it's freaking insane. It's an Animal House movie. It's an It straight up is. It's literally it's a.
If you bring it back, you gotta add that.
What's in
Animal
there?
House
Because he's like, if you boil it down to its core components, it's basically an Animal House movie. Because it's literally like, oh guys, we gotta get inside there. Let's get inside there, and they do the dumbest thing. And like, it was. I mean, if did it happen? Yeah, there's potentially historical evidence that this was the thing that happened. Enough evidence for it to be a story that's still talked about and remembered and used as a brand of condom. That's also another important distinction I made with that joke, was I told myself, do not make the condom joke.
Why?
Because it's it's low-hanging fruit, in my opinion, and 2, it also derails the thought process.
Duh.
Condoms, super thin. Sex, honey, what are you doing later tonight? Like, it's like
that's good. The ability to cut a good joke is such a strong tool in the comedian's arsenal.
Like
I just don't have it yet.
You gotta drown your babies.
I have to. I've got to start killing babies, folks.
Welcome to the Comedy Theory Podcast. If you're just jumping in, we're not talking about murdering children.
Who the fuck? Why? Okay, I have a legitimate
I have
qualm.
a mini rant.
Who actually starts a podcast in the fucking middle?
What madman just slaps the red bar and
this
starts
would be
where he
crazy
is?
if somebody started it right now. Yeah, it would, because this is a linear thought process. It would be crazy to start it right now. Who the fuck would do that?
It's like
anyways,
entering a dinner 40 minutes in. What are we talking about? It's like, what?
Series of questions. Or I think it's just a 2-parter on the Trojan Horse. I would like to know how it was written, if it was written, and what happened, like, when you took it on stage and how it grew.
Well, it started
Comedy Theory Podcast.
Comedy Theory Podcast. The Trojan Horse thing has always been something that's hilarious to me. I talk about it all the time. I rant about it all the time.
When did you realize?
It was when you're just talking about it, you know, because I feel
like in school.
When you're not, when I'm just like, well, I mean, I work in retail, so there's just a lot of times when nothing's happening, and you're kind of like, hey, what do you think about it?
No, like, did it first hit you when you were younger, or did it first hit you recently?
I remember, I think it was like, probably when I was younger, because it's like, I in the joke, I think I literally say, like, I was a weird person, so, like, when people explained the Trojan Horse to me, some kids were like, okay, on to geometry. I was like, I have a few questions.
Yeah.
Because it's fucking insane. It sounds like a cartoon. It really does. Like, someone had to go,
Tom and Jerry would do that shit.
Yes, he's like, we're going to build a giant fucking horse, and we're going to hide inside it, and then we're going to let them find it, and let's, on the assumption, and they're not going to burn it right away, because, you know, there's been a war going, and a horse appearing with no other soldiers.
That'd be like if an Air Force base somewhere in Florida had a car parked outside of it, and they were like, let's bring this car inside. I've never seen anybody get into or out of this car, but let's pull it on in.
It's literally like, it's like being in Afghanistan and you're in a house, and like all of a sudden you just see like a Toyota Camry being pulled up a dirt road, and you just squint at it and go,
it's a nice Toyota Camry.
Let's see if it has leather seats. Like, what? No, like, there's a bomb in there. Clearly, do not bring it near the children and women. Don't do that.
Afghanistan even still going on.
But like, it's also like you said, like, I remember I was very brass tacks about like the historical aspects of what made it funny, like the fact that there was a war, and you know they settled the war, and because some prince saw another girl and was like, damn, she's hot as fuck, I'm gonna steal her, and then causing a second war. That's hilarious to me.
Well, what about the writing? Like, how?
Well, the writing process grew because I remember I told it, and then it did okay because it was.
Oh, you told it before you wrote it?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Well, I mean, it started out as a conversational joke. Like, what's my favorite thing is like a concept that's interesting to me. I'll talk about it. I'll just kind of like in a way stage write it, but it's just a conversation.
Yeah.
I'll find beats to it, and then when I brought it to a stage, it did okay, but I remembered that it wasn't doing as well as I would want it to in my head. So what I started doing was instead of talking about the brass tacks of it, I started doing what you were saying, premising it up, like the manager.
Drowning babies.
Drowning babies, man. Well, I mean, just imagine, you know, like that morning shift, the guard that had to like wake up, time to guard, walked up the ramparts, and instead of just seeing a giant expanse that he usually does, he sees a freaking giant wooden horse that was not there the day before. What do you do? Imagine how dead inside
This
you
isn't
are.
even comedy anymore. Like, literally, what do you do?
No, seriously, what do you do when you imagine going to like a opening shift at a retail establishment you work on and just finding a giant paper mache hippopotamus that's blocking the door, and your manager won't be there for 30 minutes. You have to call someone.
YouTube right now?
Like, am I still high? Like, like what?
Well, I know I'm still high, but that high?
Like that high? Like looks at hands. Like, what's going on?
Don't do drugs, kids.
Don't do drugs, kids. They're not. Well, don't do drugs, kids.
So you started
Try
writing
them,
it,
teens.
or so you took it on stage first, and you started writing it. You started killing babies, and then at
adding
what
parts.
point did you like? What made you stop doing the bit?
I honestly like. Well, you know, I workshopped it to death, and then we used it at that one gig we had, and the one gig was recorded and put on Facebook. So therefore, the people that have already heard it went like the stocks of people who have already heard it went up. So I kind of just went. It's also not going to get any better. Probably it's very self-contained. So I was gonna say like for now, let's just like leave it there. And if I go to a place in Bufu nowhere, I have a really nice 8-minute bit. Yeah.
Well, that's that's the nice part about doing a lot of stand-up comedy is well, a lot compared to some people.
A decent amount.
Is that you'll have just these back pocket bits. Like even Tom Segura did it. There was it was like a special about him going to like Asia for the Asian markets, and he was doing like these tiny venues in Asia, and he literally fell back on like his last album's best jokes because he was like, I don't know how this crowd works here. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to do my best jokes. And then he went up and he bombed with his best jokes because he's like, the night before I had to go listen to my jokes because I didn't remember them. I bought my fucking album to listen to those jokes. And
it took him out of it. Yeah.
Well, that's what you do as a comedian. You'll build a set, and then if you go to somewhere that I know it's hacky and I know it's bad to do, but if you're going to a place and you're really afraid to do it, fall back on the material you wrote. I don't understand why I have such a strong inkling for me to be like, don't do that. That's bad as a comedian. But you wrote, it's still your material.
You have a better blueprint than any other comedian before you. Every other comedian had books and TV spots and some VHSs that maybe their parents got them. Probably they didn't because it has swears in it. Us, we have an app on our phone to every comedian that's ever existed. So your instinct to know pitfalls is just coming from the fact that like you've seen them all, you've read about them all, you've heard comedians talk about them firsthand. So like here's my thing. I will always say it's like another thing you can attest to is when you listen to as many showbiz podcasts, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You, like the number one thing you kind of focus on or notice is like, especially in stand-up, and I think Nikki Glaser put it best. She was saying like,
she's really funny.
She just literally goes like, you wanna know how I chose my opener? He was pretty funny, but an amazing hang. You could have so I always say like work ethic in the comedy word is literally top notch because it's all just people trying to be funny, and you can't be sensitive, you can't be like over the top. And I don't mean sensitive in the PC way. I just mean like you have to have a really good go with the flow vibe. A comedian will go on a tour as a headliner, and he will choose his opener on not who is the funniest, but who is the easiest to be around because they're going to be sharing a bus for 4 months. So it's like I feel like you have the laxitude going well. So like when it comes to like your talent progression, which has been amazing, it's just because I feel like you just don't have to worry about that other part. There's some comedians that are like hilarious, but if you try to talk to them, they're off-putting as hell, which makes you wonder, why are you able to do that on set? Oh, it's fake. I get it now. And that's something only comedians really get because we know them in real life and go like, that just all becomes more of an act. The audience doesn't know that. They don't, because you're just an act they're going to see. All they're going to see is the act. So I kind of feel like, you know, if you have a really good ingenuity or not, like a genuine good vibe off stage, and you go on stage, people love you all the more better for it. I know it seems dumb to say and very obvious, but work ethic is so damn key, and I feel like allowing your material to not be like chokehold, get better, but like to kind of like grow and just like be a natural thing like that. Like, oh, don't do that. That's a good instinct. Other people don't have that.
Oh yeah. Well, you gotta put the pressure on yourself because nobody's gonna put that pressure on you.
No.
Like the audience
nowadays,
will. No. You'll reach a point like I feel like I'm there where I can go into a good amount of rooms and I can get laughs, which at some point in my comedy career I couldn't get laughs. I can walk up stage and I can know like this did all right, but you can't placate. You can't be there because I see people like Will Poole, shout out, one of the funniest open micers I have fucking ever met.
Definitely want to talk about him for a second, yeah.
Shreds, murders. It is unbelievable. He took a year off comedy, and the motherfucker came back and has been killing. It's a beautiful thing. I might take a year off.
Yeah, take a year off, dude, man. Just like go to the Himalayas, study, learn how to float, you know, just and then come back and do some stand-up. Yeah. Well, I mean,
you can find Will Poole on my YouTube page.
Yes, you can.
The Connor Ford Show.
He's tremendous.
On YouTube. He should be one of the first ones right now, but if you're listening to this later, just look up Will Poole. Pop right up.
Yep. I feel like my favorite thing about him is he's so aware of how he's coming off. And I know that sounds like obvious, but it's like he has this really amazing ability to utilize exactly how everyone's hearing him. Like the cadence of his voice is so perfectly paced. And I feel like a lot of it comes from the fact that this isn't just something that he does. This is something he's actively doing right now.
Well, he does it in the car before he goes up. He does it multiple times in the car. He was literally... I never get the chance to talk to the dude before he goes up because he's just running his material. And
we're just, shooting the shit at the table next to him, yeah.
I'm still in the form of finding my legs, finding how I do it.
Oh, yeah.
Where I am... figuring out if I want to be the comic that memorizes or if I want to be the comic that just lets it just like hangs out and shit. Because there are those cool comedians on stage that just fuck off, and it's a good thing. But I think as I'm saying that, I'm realizing just do both.
Yeah. Right.
I feel like there's some stuff you're gonna have to memorize, and after you've done a bit for an extended period of time, consider it memorized. I guess it's just a sliding scale. When you start a bit off, it's 10% you have to do this, and 90% fuck around on stage, and then the slider just shifts more and closer to 100% until you stop doing the bit. So that's what makes a good bit. Like Kevin Hart has an amazing bit about gnats, fucking gnats. There's nothing like to a lot of comedians, to myself included. I wouldn't see anything there. Mm-hmm. There were gnats. That's my extent of a gnat joke.
There are gnats over there. That's crazy. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, but he has a fucking phenomenal joke about gnats, and I think he just spent the time on it. He went on stage with it. He was like, this might be funny. He saw the potential, and then he just took it and he ran with it, and he kept doing it until eventually you hit that 95% point on the slider. Because, as any comedian knows, you will never be done with a bit. No. Everybody always says it, and it's totally true. Even Trojan Horse, I bet you're like, that'd be a good take.
No, yeah. Yeah, exactly. You're always going to keep throwing it on there, yeah. And I mean, I always found that memorization's great and everything and all that, but I kind of feel like while memorization is the best prep, it's never going to be better than that thing you think on stage.
Oh yeah,
never gonna be.
Yeah, because it's so not even in the moment. Tier. So and when I first started as a comedian, I didn't have that ability. I could not vamp with the audience, a little bit because I was too nervous, a little bit because I had never connected with the audience before, and what set me over the edge of that is I would go up on stage, and the first 2 minutes of my act, I wouldn't do comedy. I would tell a story that was super vulnerable for me to tell. It just put me out there, and I could see the audience. I could see their reaction. I took the time in the story to connect with the audience, and then when I went into stand-up, when I started doing stand-up, it did significantly better because I took that time to calibrate myself to the audience, which is why sometimes I just won't do an opener. Yeah. I'll just do shit that I thought of of the previous acts. I'll talk about their act. I'll be like, that was good, that was funny, this and that. So I think I would like to start opening with just crowd work, because I mean,
I definitely need to work on it. It's my one thing.
Yeah, I ain't great with it.
It's for me, it's I always I always hate preambles, because you know my motto, benign violation is what makes comedy comedy. Oh wow, I wasn't expecting that, but it's okay. It's
your motto?
That's the premise of comedy. So I feel the most I'll ever do is I'll go all right, I'm gonna tell some jokes. Let's see how this goes. I feel there's many instances where...
Yeah, but then the problem is you're going straight into setup. And
that's the thing. I'm going to tell some jokes, then I do what you do, where I make some comment on the previous act, mainly to demonstrate to the audience. See that thing that was random and happened before me, and I commented on it, and you laughed?
Yeah.
That's what I do. I can do that. I can make you laugh. And I did that without saying, hey, I'm funny, I'm about to make you laugh. No, I did it with doing it. And I feel like that's important because you do that too. And that's what makes that important because it's like improv. Let me demonstrate to you this. There's no script to this.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's a script to it. I just feel like people who are told you're about to be told something specifically funny, they're on guard in a way. And then you lose a little bit of it because the shock value isn't there because they know it's a joke. They know there's going to be a twist. They know there's going to be some type of under the rug thing. So they're waiting for it and they go, there it is, you know. So I feel like that's why my humor is so quick. Like the one I came up with on the when I was literally on the stage when I was dressed on my birthday. I literally was like, yeah, I know I look like I just got my ice cream truck stolen and I just don't know what to do with the rest of my day. That did well because I was like, oh damn, I don't have any bits about what am I wearing? Blue shirt, these pants. I was like, yeah, there we go. And it did well. And then I, my birthday set was completely stage writing. The gazebo story with my mom I told, but, I haven't told that story in 4 years.
I don't think I've heard it. Jesus.
I know. It's, crazy. But, that's my thing. I always feel like the best way to do that preamble thing is, where you need to demonstrate you're funny without saying you're funny because...
Yeah.
The moment you say the words "I'm funny" in any form,
just shoot yourself.
It's easier. Well, the audience is gonna immediately go bet, and that's not good. That's not.
That's why, as a newer comedian, I don't like that. Before I go and do any show or pay gig, not a lot of money, but still, they'll be like, "Hey, what accolades do you have?" I'm gonna introduce you. I'm gonna say, "This guy's hilarious. He did this. He did that." I take the Seinfeld route. I'm like, don't just say this is a comedian and let my material do the work.
Yeah, right.
Because I don't want people to be like, he's done shit at the Second City. He's done this. He's done that.
Prep.
He better be funny.
Yeah, because remember what you were saying when you saw that one Second City show and went, really? They graduated? You don't want to have people thinking that after they see your show.
Dude, that was so... It was literally the guy.
Let's not have people piece together which one it was.
No. The man walked up on stage and he had a leather gimp vest on, and that was one of the writers of the show. And I'm like, that's what happened.
Oh no, because I especially with specifically with stand-up is you're being introduced as hey, here's a guy who thinks he's funny. That's the emotional premise that goes up there. So that's why I feel like likability is so important, or deep unlikability. It's the spectrum.
Anthony
Jeselnik. Who's the other person you love to hate?
I don't know.
Can't think of it right now, but I will. But anyway, you got that because the like you said, the fuck you to the audience when they don't laugh.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of vibe. You gotta have that.
It.
Because honestly,
it's weird that you can do that. In my act, I say fuck you to the audience 4 or 5 times.
People don't expect it. It's the benign violation.
Well, it just fits with my style.
Oh yeah, completely. If I do it, people think I'm like, shut up. So yeah, I'll always go I'll instead of going fuck you, I'll always be like, really? Okay, it's fine.
I do that. I am guilty of that as well. Really? All right. Or that's the joke we didn't like.
Yeah. I've said that before where it's like, that was supposed to do better. You're like,
also a good one. There's, I need to get away from the comedian bailouts. I need to get away from the...
It's good to be good at them, but you can't have any in the pocket because that's a bad sign.
But now I'm noticing this. Will doesn't do those bailouts. Will kills because if one of the jokes Will doesn't do well, he just moves on to the next one. And that's probably how you build more momentum than because you're detracting from the story by being like, no good. And also you're limited with those. You can only do it so many times. Be like, that's the one we pulled back off really now. Yeah. Before people are like, you're sucking. Your only things is you're pointing out that you suck.
Well, Christopher Titus has a thing that does that kind of well, and I'm sure you've heard a variant of it because it's very common in dark humor comics, where he has a joke where he talks about how his mother was committed when he was 8, to an insane asylum, and he goes like, yeah, but it was kind of nice that when I was in a school gluing macaroni to paper plates, my mom was also somewhere gluing macaroni because you put her work on the wall, and the audience goes, and he goes, you better lighten the fuck up because it's about to get a lot darker than that. And it's like that kind of, and it's because he knows it is. So I think that's another reason why it's good. If he didn't go harder at that point, that was just an empty threat.
I think I need something like that on the bit I'm currently working on about the Instagram models.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you catch the monologue in that one?
You should did. I loved it.
No, yeah. So I think because
just like the
I performed a very intense bit in front of
here it is
a very we might not put it on.
No, it's
because I'm still doing it. It's still
I was gonna say you did it for one of the first times in last week. So I was gonna say
it was the second time I've done it. So but it's a very the audience I did it in front of was very like, "Aw," instead of staying on board with it, and I think I just need that tag if it starts to turn that way. I think the monologue.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you feeling sympathy for the person that makes 8 times you by showing less than a porn star?
Do you have sympathy for the fictional person I've set up here?
Yeah.
Like, thanks. That's good and bad because it's like, oh, you're paying attention enough to care about the characters in this story, but also stop caring about the characters in these stories and laugh, you son of a bitch.
Hypothetical hold on is what I call that. Where it goes like, hold on, you guys know this isn't real, right? Like when you're just like, let's go on a journey together.
You can't. That's the struggle. You want the bit to do well, but you just can't break away that many times. That's why it's so rare to see in comics. Be like, hold on, I'll explain.
Yeah, like Pete Holmes will go like, for some of you who aren't laughing, maybe you're not doing it right. Maybe some of you aren't picturing a red suited devil.
I am guilty of stealing that. I am guilty of stealing that. I do regret it. Not the whole bit, but
the devil part, but like the method.
Yeah, I have done the. You guys aren't picturing this right.
That's not even stealing. I feel like that's probably. I know. I mean, here's my thing.
Yeah, but it's Pete Holmes.
It is Pete Holmes. It's verbatim. Yeah, that's the thing it sucks about when it's accidentally verbatim. The shame that rips through you. You're
well, like, it's not stealing a joke. It's not nearly as bad, especially again, new comics. Yeah, this is it's a stealing the end of a sentence. It's not a punchline. It's a bailout. Really. Is what
you watched the first 2 episodes of Miss Maisel, right? Did you or no? Well, like one of the huge things in the first episode is like she's not a comedian yet. It's her husband trying to be one. And one of the things is he tells this really funny joke at an open mic and it does okay. You know what I mean? Like she sees it and then she finds out that it was actually I think it was like a Johnny Carson line that he does. And like she's like, but I thought it was. And she goes like, but I thought you wrote it. And he goes like, no, that's what all the comedians when they're first starting out just takes other comedian stuff and do it. And she goes, that's not right because she's gonna be the comedian, so she's gotta have the instinct. So like when she sees him, she's like, that's not right. Like they do a really good job of like really capturing her face, like that tastes wrong. Like, and it's just yay.
Yeah, but it's like, what is the difference? What is the difference between as a new comic taking the tag I'm hesitant to say tagline the bailout, taking that bailout when you just don't have the tools.
Well, I feel like the journey to becoming you starts immediately. If you're heavily like other comedians in the beginning, that's fine. You're a larva. You have no shell, But I mean, I feel that you should always be constantly distancing yourself from having it. Almost immediately, but everyone's like everything about me. I'm 4 years into doing stand-up, 5 years almost now, and I did that in front of an audience. So it's like happens, like it's like not saying it's justifiable, but I mean like I didn't completely rip off the Catholic vibe.
It's definitely something to be moved away from.
Oh yeah, but it's a crutch that's understandable.
When you're a new comedian, it is okay because the
maximum 5 words though.
But yeah, and I think it's also smart. There's a point in your career where you can use those bailouts and it'll go good, and then at some point you have to be like, okay, those are training wheels. It is time to remove the training wheels. If I fall, I'll just fall. Yeah. And then sometimes that's better because you learn your timing better because you don't have that option like just sitting in your back pocket, and 2, you can I think it'll make you like a smarter comic on stage. It'll make you more conservative with your words. So
being able to do your thing is a version of thinking on your feet in a way. Yeah. And you got to have that skill developing right as early as possible.
Then how long have we done? Like 45 minutes?
About to be an hour in 9 seconds. So I want to wrap it up on a nice typo.
7,
6, 5,
all right.
4, 3, 2, 1.
We're gonna cut all that. You son of. Sorry. I just snap on it. So
cut
easy.
It right there. We are gonna cut out like the first 40 seconds of. Are we recording? Are we recording?
Well, now we're gonna cut all of that out. We won't. Screw the audience. See, it comes back. Thank you for listening to the Comedy Theory Podcast. If you like it, subscribe. Check out the Connor Ford Show on Facebook.
And share it so these big comedians can hate us.
Yes. Check out the Connor Ford Show on Facebook and YouTube. We have... Do we have anything coming up?
We don't, and that scares me. Because right now
we usually do.
Well, that's my thing, though. We're doing filming season soon, so we're kind of not making any long decisions because we want to breathe a little this summer.
Well, we're currently in the writing process. Come see us at the Ashbury Coffee House in Willow Springs every Wednesday night at 10. If you have any thoughts, comments, gripes, grievances, or concerns about this podcast,
call me.
Just comment.
Just comment. And,
we'll probably read them. I can't imagine there'll be too many.
Yeah, right. We won't have too much to shift through. And look forward to Bain and Jenkins, a project coming from Stay Tuned Productions soon.
That one's a long haul, yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. But either way, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for listening.